It was a warm Saturday afternoon in Twin Falls, Idaho. The commercial area surrounding the local shopping centers was unusually busy, filled with weekend shoppers, families running errands, and people gathering to visit a newly opened local restaurant. For many, it was supposed to be a calm, ordinary weekend day, but shortly after 2:30 p.m., the atmosphere transformed instantly into chaos. A 24-year-old man, later identified by law enforcement as Chad Williams, arrived at the location armed with a long rifle. Positioned outside near the storefront and the busy drive-thru lanes, Williams suddenly unleashed a volley of gunfire directly toward the building and the parked vehicles nearby. The loud, sharp cracks of rifle fire echoed across the parking lot, triggering immediate panic. Store managers, employees, and everyday citizens reacted within seconds, rushing to pull bystanders inside secured doors and take cover behind counters and vehicles. Within moments, dispatch centers received a wave of emergency calls reporting an active shooter in progress. It was a warm, bright Saturday afternoon on August 1st, 2026 in the city of Twin Falls, Idaho. Twin Falls is a community known for its quiet residential neighborhoods, scenic canyon views, and a steady pace of life. But on this particular weekend, the local commercial sector on the north side of the city was far busier than usual. A newly established restaurant, part of a popular national chain, had just opened its doors, drawing large crowds of local residents, families with children, and visitors from surrounding counties. The surrounding shopping centers, parking lots, and drive-thru lanes were filled with people going about their weekend routines, enjoying the sunshine and waiting in lines that stretched outside the storefronts. Shortly after 2:30 p.m., the familiar sounds of a bustling weekend afternoon were shattered without warning. Witnesses recalled hearing a series of loud, sharp metallic cracks echoing across the asphalt. Sounds that many initially mistook for construction work, backfiring vehicles, or fireworks. Within seconds, however, the horrifying reality became clear. A 24-year-old man, later identified by local law enforcement and federal authorities as Chad Williams, had stepped into the active commercial zone wearing dark attire and armed with a high-powered long rifle. Without uttering a word or making any public declaration, Williams raised his firearm and unleashed a sudden, deliberate volley of shots into the crowded environment. His primary direction of fire targeted the front glass windows of the newly opened establishment, as well as the long line of vehicles waiting in the drive-thru lane and pedestrians walking through the adjacent parking area. Bullets struck the exterior walls, shattered heavy plate glass windows, and pierced the metal bodies of parked cars. The immediate reaction was total bedlam. Screams echoed across the lot as people instinctively dropped to the pavement, scrambled behind concrete barriers, or hid between parked vehicles to escape the line of fire. Inside the restaurant, store management and frontline employees demonstrated extraordinary composure amidst the sudden violence. Ashley Garibay, a 23-year-old restaurant manager who had relocated temporarily to Twin Falls to train the new local staff, immediately sprang into action. She and her team began guiding terrified customers away from the exposed glass windows, directing them toward secure back rooms, storage areas, and employee exits away from the main entrance. Outside, drivers trapped in their vehicles were forced to make split-second decisions, some ducking below their dashboards, while others attempted to throw their cars into reverse to clear the narrow drive-thru lanes. Within 2 minutes of the first shot, multiple emergency 911 calls began flooding the Twin Falls Emergency Dispatch Center, painting a chaotic picture of an active shooter unleashing rapid fire in one of the city's most densely populated commercial hubs as the deafening sounds of rifle fire echoed across the pavement. The situation in the Twin Falls commercial district threatened to spiral into an unprecedented disaster. Bullets continued to strike surrounding structures, and dozens of defenseless bystanders remained trapped in open areas with limited cover. However, the trajectory of the attack was about to undergo a dramatic and unexpected turn. Unknown to the gunman, among the crowd of shoppers and diners were individuals trained to handle high-stress tactical emergencies. Two armed local citizens, Jordan Salinas and Austin Scott James, along with an off-duty Idaho state trooper who happened to be in the immediate area, recognized the imminent threat to human life. Rather than seeking safety for themselves, all three individuals made the decision to move toward the danger. Drawing their concealed handguns, Salinas, James, and the off-duty officer began maneuvering between parked vehicles to acquire a clear line of sight on the attacker. Chad Williams was positioned near the main walkway, attempting to advance toward the primary entrance of the building where scores of people were taking shelter. Before he could breach the structure or continue firing into the dense crowd, the three defenders opened fire, engaging the gunman simultaneously from multiple angles. The sudden return of defensive gunfire caught Williams completely off guard. Suppressive rounds struck the pavement and vehicles around him, creating immediate confusion and forcing him to abandon his tactical advantage. The intense crossfire prevented the gunman from maintaining a forward posture or targeting additional civilians. Realizing that his movement was entirely pinned down and that armed resistance was intensifying, Williams was forced to alter his path entirely. Instead of continuing his assault on the crowded storefront, the suspect broke contact and began a rapid retreat, moving away from the main gathering area and heading toward the nearby city visitor center. The decisive, high-risk intervention by Salinas, James, and the off-duty trooper lasted less than 90 seconds, but it effectively disrupted the gunman's momentum, neutralized the immediate threat to the building, and bought crucial time for emergency first responders to arrive on scene. With the gunman forced into a full retreat toward the nearby city visitor center, emergency sirens began to echo in the distance. The Twin Falls Dispatch Center had received scores of frantic 911 calls within the first 3 minutes of the shooting, prompting a massive multi-agency tactical deployment. Officers from the Twin Falls Police Department, deputies from the local sheriff's office, and troopers from the Idaho State Police sped toward the commercial corridor, unsure if they were facing a single active shooter or a coordinated multi-person assault. Upon arrival, heavily armed tactical units established a strict perimeter around the retail complex, blocking off traffic and evacuating terrified citizens who were still hiding inside surrounding storefronts and beneath vehicles. As primary entry teams swept the main parking area, they coordinated with the armed civilians who had held the line, rapidly confirming the direction in which the suspect had fled. Tactical squads advanced methodically toward the city visitor center, using armored vehicles and ballistic shields to clear the open terrain. When law enforcement officers breached the immediate vicinity of the visitor center, they located the body of 24-year-old Chad Williams. The active threat reached its final decisive end as investigators confirmed that the suspect had suffered a fatal, self-inflicted gunshot wound as law enforcement officers closed in on his position. With the shooter officially neutralized, the focus instantly shifted to triage and medical rescue. Dozens of paramedics, emergency medical technicians, and fire personnel rushed into the hot zone. They established a primary casualty collection point in the parking lot, working frantically to stabilize victims suffering from gunshot wounds and shrapnel injuries. Emergency medical helicopters and ground ambulances transported the most critical patients to regional trauma centers across the state. Tragically, despite the rapid medical intervention and the brave actions of bystanders, 3 innocent lives were taken during the initial seconds of the ambush. Among the deceased was 23-year-old Ashley Garibay, the dedicated restaurant manager whose selfless actions helped guide her staff and customers to safety during the opening volleys. 7 additional individuals sustained severe injuries requiring immediate surgical procedures and intensive care. By late afternoon, federal agents from the FBI joined local law enforcement to secure the multi-block crime scene, marking off hundreds of pieces of evidence, bullet casings, and damaged vehicles. What had begun as a routine summer afternoon in Twin Falls had transformed into a complex, tragic crime scene that would demand weeks of forensic analysis. In the immediate aftermath of the tragic shooting, federal and local law enforcement agencies launched an extensive joint investigation to piece together the background, motives, and preparation of 24-year-old Chad Williams. Agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, alongside lead detectives from the Twin Falls Police Department, immediately executed search warrants on Williams's residence, personal vehicles, and digital devices. Their primary objective was to determine whether this violent act was a calculated, ideologically motivated attack or the result of a severe, unaddressed personal crisis. Initial findings revealed that Williams had lived a relatively quiet life in Idaho, maintaining a low profile that had previously drawn zero attention from law enforcement. He had no prior criminal record, nor was he on any federal watch list. Family members, who were described by authorities as fully cooperative with investigators, expressed profound shock and grief over the devastating event, stating that there were few overt indicators of the severe escalation that unfolded on August 1st. Forensic analysts specializing in digital evidence began combing through Williams's online activity, including encrypted messaging platforms, social media accounts, hard drives, and internet search histories. Investigators worked around the clock to trace where and how the long rifle used in the attack was acquired, examining whether all firearm purchases complied with state and federal regulations. While early rumors on social media speculated about potential broader extremist ties or organized terror plots, federal officials urged the public to exercise caution and rely strictly on verified facts, clarifying that no evidence of co-conspirators or active secondary threats had been identified. A central element of the ongoing investigation revolves around the psychological profile of the shooter and the timeline leading up to the incident. Behavioral analysis experts from the FBI are examining Williams' recent life events, employment history, and personal interactions to identify potential triggers or warning signs that may have gone unnoticed. The goal is not only to provide closure to the victims' families and the traumatized community of Twin Falls, but also to contribute vital data to threat assessment protocols used by law enforcement nationwide. As forensic teams continue to analyze ballistics, surveillance footage, and thousands of pages of digital data, many troubling questions still remain unanswered. The motive behind why Chad Williams targeted a crowded, newly opened restaurant on a sunny Saturday afternoon remains one of the primary focuses of the investigation. For the investigators, piecing together the final weeks of the gunman's life is a painstaking process, one that is essential to understanding how such a sudden act of destruction could occur in a peaceful community. As the community of Twin Falls begins the long and painful process of healing, the tragedy of August 1st, 2026 serves as a solemn reminder of how quickly an ordinary day can turn into a battle for survival. The heroism shown by Ashley Garibay, who sacrificed her safety to protect her staff, along with the immediate, decisive action of Jordan Salinas, Austin Scott James, and the off-duty state trooper, undoubtedly saved countless lives. Their bravery stands as a beam of light during one of the darkest moments in the city's history. Tragedies like this inevitably reignite national conversations surrounding public safety, Second Amendment rights, and the impact of armed civilians during active shooter events. How do you view the role of concealed carry citizens in critical situations like this one? Share your thoughts and perspectives in the comments below. We welcome a respectful discussion. If you found this deep dive informative and wish to support our independent investigative coverage, Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Hitting the notification bell ensures you won't miss our upcoming case files and updates. Thank you for watching and stay safe.